Welcome back everyone. It's Mindy, and in today's video, I'm going to be showing you how I created these two beach scene cards using products from the Ocean Minded card kit from Gina K Designs, especially showing you how I stamped those ocean waves to have that foam in the ocean. So these create beautiful beach scenes and really makes me wish I was at a beach right now. Here's a look at the Ocean Minded stamp set. You could see it is a large 6x8 stamp set. Lots of sentiments, some paw prints, footprints, the sand heart that you can put on your cards. I'm going to be focusing on the ocean waves, or the foam of the ocean is actually what it ends up creating. So what I'm doing right now is I'm just lining up. I'm going to be doing some masking. So I need to see how big of an area this is going to cover. That's just going to give me an idea where to put my masking paper. So this is the Masking Magic from Gina K Designs that I'm putting on the bottom half of my card. That's going to be my ocean underneath. I want to create the sunset first. So I'm using Tangerine Twist and Wild Dandelion ink. And I'm going to be ink blending my sunset with the Life Changing Blender brushes, starting off with my Wild Dandelion. So I'm just going to go ahead and get my blender brush loaded with some ink and then lightly go around the edges. I'm going to have the yellow on the outside and I'll have the orange in the middle where the sun would be coming up, going down, however you want to look at it. So just lightly adding that yellow all the way around, and I'm kind of, I guess, freehanding my sun right now. Once I have that done, I'm going to bring in the Tangerine Twist and I'm going to add that right into the middle. You can see I'm starting off on my Masking Magic paper and going up into my sunset. You could also put another piece of paper down towards the bottom more if you're worried you're going to get some ink down there. That's going to be our beach way down at the bottom. So just blending that Tangerine Twist out into the Wild Dandelion. The harder you push, the more ink you're going to put down. The lighter the pressure, the lighter that your ink is going to be on the cardstock. So keep that in mind if you're looking for a bold blend or a soft blend. Once I have my ink laid down, I'm going to bring in the Sunshine Stencil, a little bit of a tongue twister for me, the Sunshine Stencil, and this has the sun, so you could have used this right away if you wanted to. I wanted to add these sun rays with the Tangerine Twist and have that light yellow background. So still having that masking paper in place, I'm just holding that stencil down lightly with some purple tape off on the edges. And then just lightly, I'm not pushing real hard, so this is really light pressure. I'm going to go around to all of those sun rays. And you can always kind of peel it back a little bit if you want to see how dark the pressure is. This is totally up to you how vibrant you want those sun rays to be or how light. So I'm going to have those kind of fading off the edge of my cardstock. I will be trimming this cardstock down. And this is using the layering white cardstock from Gina K Designs. I really love ink blending on the layering white. It just has a really smooth blend once the ink is dried. So once I remove the stencil, I can carefully remove the Masking Magic. And you can see I just carefully peel that back and it didn't rip my paper. And then I'm going to bring in another piece and add that right to the top. I'm going to cover up that ink blending that I just did because now I need to work on my ocean and my beach. I'll start off by ink blending the Sandy Beach ink to the bottom of the cardstock. One key thing to keep in mind when you're going to be stamping this foam to the ocean is you really want to have a beach. I had done a couple cards where it was just all blue and it didn't look right to me. It just wasn't, I wasn't visualizing it. And this was the key thing, was adding a beach to the bottom. You want the beach to kind of blend in with our blues that we're going to add. So I'm kind of going heavy towards the bottom and I'm going to lighten up as I get a little bit higher on the cardstock. And once again, this is the Sandy Beach ink, which I think is just a perfect ink when it comes to adding that beach down at the bottom. So lightly going up, we're going to be blending this in with the blue. Once I'm happy with my beach ink blending, I'm going to work on my ocean water. Now, Gina has a variety of blues that would work amazing for this. There's Turquoise Sea and Blue Lagoon and Ocean Mist, so many different ones. I chose Blue Denim and Blue Lagoon are my two go-to colors for this. So I'm starting off right at the edge of where my masking paper is, and I'm adding that blue denim. So this is kind of way off in the horizon. It's darker. You could leave this off if you wanted to. You wouldn't have to. I just wanted to have some contrast to this. So just real lightly adding in that blue denim. And then as I get down a little bit more, I'm going to make that softer. Then I'll come in with the Blue Lagoon, and I'm adding that to this entire white section that you see here between the blue denim and the sandy beach. So I'm going to blend that together with the blue denim, kind of going heavy-handed towards the top there. And then as I'm getting closer to the beach, I'm going to go really light, almost to a white, where it's in between the beach and the ocean. So I'll keep going over that until I feel I have a good blend. Also keep in mind with Gina's inks is that once they dry back, it is almost a seamless blend. So if it looks like it's not working for you or not blending very well, let the ink sit and it will be just completely seamless. So I'll remove my masking magic, and we have this beautiful sunset beach scene. So you could leave your card just as this, but I really wanted to use that stamp for adding the foam to the water. I'm going to set that card off on the side. It does take a while for these inks to dry. Keep that in mind because we're going to be heat embossing. So what I'm doing here is I'm just going to create another beach scene, but this time I'm not going to be doing the sunset. So this is an option if you didn't want to do all that masking. You could create this portion of it, and this is just another piece of layering white cardstock that measures 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. That's kind of my go-to starting point when it comes to the cards. So I did the sandy beach towards the bottom. You could see I went up just a little bit higher because this is going to be all blue. And then once again, coming in with the blue denim right towards the top. Now, normally I would be using the bigger blender brushes because those are typically my go-tos, but they were all, I had to give them a bath. They needed to be washed. I had used them so much, so they were drying and I didn't, they were too wet for me to use. So that's why I'm using these smaller ones. The bigger ones, especially on a card like this, you would cover more of the card. It would be a lot easier to use the bigger brushes. So now coming in with that Blue Lagoon, and I'll be blending that up into the blue denim. And like I said, just depending how much pressure you put on your brush will determine how much ink you're laying down. So the harder you push, the darker, the more ink you're going to lay down. You could get a couple different colors just out of one ink pad, just depending on how much pressure you're going to put in there. Once I'm happy with the blend, I'll set this off on the side and give it some time to dry as well. And then we'll bring in our original one and start doing some stamping. So this is the stamp that's off of the Ocean Minded stamp set. It's going to create that foam that's in the ocean. And a way to test this, if you want to see if your panel is dry enough, is just take your embossing powder and sprinkle it over your background. If it's sticking before you even stamp anything, then it's not dry yet. So that is what I had done in the beginning to test this to see if it's dry. I also hit it with my heat tool to help speed that along. Once I have my placement for my stamp, I'm going to prep this with an anti-static powder tool and just brush that all over where I'm going to be stamping. Then I'm going to use my Gina K Designs embossing ink to ink up the stamp set. So we'll be doing some heat embossing, like I said. So I'll just ink up that entire portion of the stamp set. It is a large one, so I just go back and forth a couple times with it, make sure it's really nice and inked up. And then close the door and just give that a good push. Make sure I have pressure everywhere and it's stamped down completely. And then just carefully remove that. And then I can sprinkle on my embossing powder. So I thought what would be really cool is using this puffy white embossing powder that Gina has. And it has such great texture. It was almost too perfect to be adding to this image. I'll just sprinkle that all around, tap off the excess onto some scratch paper, and I can always pour that excess back into my jar. So after I remove all of the excess powder, I do have my heat tool heating up off on the side, so I'll bring that first to the back of the card and then to the front and just heat emboss that entire area. And this adds that great texture that I was talking about. Maybe hard to see on camera, but it's definitely amazing in person. So here's a look at the front of our card, and it's just an amazing beach scene. So while I was doing my stamping, I left the stamp in my Misty tool, and I'm going to go ahead and create this other one here just to show it to you again. And like I said, one of the key things with this stamp set is make sure you're leaving the beach. You want to make sure you're leaving room for a beach. That's kind of what puts this whole idea together or this scene together. So you can see I'm stamping it just a little bit up from the bottom, so I have a beach there, and it's kind of going over where my beach is meeting the ocean. And then just carefully remove that. And once again, I'm going to use the puffy white embossing powder. And even if it does leave a couple speckles on there, it just kind of would add to the card. So you don't have to be as meticulous about all of the embossing powder. And then heating that with the heat tool once again. Just be careful, you don't want to keep your heat tool too close or too long to the paper because you could burn your paper or overheat the embossing powder. So you can see I kind of emboss it and then I move it away a little bit and then I come back and finish that. And this is just gorgeous. This is such an amazing stamp idea. You could just even frame this and add it as a picture on your wall. I love, love this card kit. So I'm just bringing in my Swiffer cloth and I'm just kind of brushing off any of the excess anti-static powder that I had added on there. And then I can go ahead and start turning these into cards. To finish off my card that has the sunset on it, I'm going to be using a sentiment from the Sunkissed stamp set. I did go ahead and die cut a circle that I had used this double stitched circle die from Gina K Designs and Thermal Web. I lined that up into my mini Misty, and then I'm taking this fun sentiment with this beautiful font on here. It says, "Happiness comes in waves." So I line that up in my circle, close my door of the Misty to pick that up, and then I'm going to ink that up with the Gina K Designs black amalgam ink, and I do stamp that a couple times just to make sure it is a really nice crisp black. And then I can go ahead and start putting my card together. So I did trim down my panels. The card base I'm using here, I believe, is Turquoise C, I think I used. And then I have a piece of white cardstock. And then adding my front panel there. My ink blended panel is trimmed to 3 3/4 by 5 inches. And for the circle with my sentiment, I'm just lining with Gina K Designs foam squares so I can pop that up right in the middle. It does go over my sun there a little bit, but I really love the rays coming out from behind. And that finishes off this card. I did go ahead off screen and finish off the other card, which I had trimmed down into a thin strip and stamped a sentiment on the bottom, "The Life's a Beach," and that is from the Ocean Minded stamp set. And my card base is using Blue Lagoon. I really hope you enjoyed today's cards. I had a blast making them. This card kit is amazing. I will have all of the supplies listed down below in the video description and over on my blog as well. So be sure to head over there and check out more inspiration that I have featuring the Gina K Designs release. Thanks again for stopping by.